do 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 do
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Fun Bunker Film School. I am Zack, hosting with our teacher Chris. Chris, how are you?
Yo. I'm doing well.
And just like our format, I don't know why I'm looking to the right, but we have students that join us every session here where we've watched a film, and then we have a random assortment of students that are joining. So tonight we have, who do we have, Chris?
We have Luke, and we have a transfer student, Ben.
Hey,
From another genre of film.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Ben, why don't you give a little introduction of who you are? Just a little one.
yeah, my name is Ben. I know each of these three losers.
Mhm.
We've been good friends for a very long time, so I'm super excited to just chit chat. The host here is actually on another podcast that I'm on. We are both lovers of the anime, if you will, and
As if Chris
yeah,
didn't need more ammunition.
yeah. So,
With Kolb, because they've met Kolb already, actually.
okay,
So
very good.
if you've listened to past episode, Kolb is the other dad of Three Dads Talking About Anime. So you've got two of the three dads here tonight as well. There you go.
I don't believe that any transfer student to ever exist in history introduced themselves to the class by telling them they love anime. I think just as a society we have a little more shame than that.
Isn't that the opening line at your middle school, Luke, in South Carolina? Was not, "Hey, I'm Dale and I love anime."
No, I couldn't walk through the parking lot at our school wearing skinny jeans without being called multiple slurs. So I don't think anime fans would be able to cut it.
Yeah, South Carolina when we was growing up. Yep, that's about right. That's about right. You had to come up to Greensboro with us to make it with skinny jeans on. So
yeah,
that's true. That's good. Well, Christopher, teacher Chris, what are we watching tonight? What did we already watch? Actually,
We already watched it. I mean, and if you guys got 2 hours, we could just watch it right now. But
we could do that. They can also read. They can read the title of the podcast, so they know what it is.
Listeners know what movie this is. It is Alien from 1979 by Ridley Scott.
Woo!
Yeah,
I'm very excited. I love this movie. I love this movie. So this was not my first time viewing. It wasn't even my second time viewing. I don't know how many viewings this was. This was a very exciting one. No hesitation signing up for this slot for me. So it was good. Yeah, but a lot of hesitation for some of us, maybe.
Yeah, I, to put it mildly, am a coward.
It's okay.
And so my interactions with this movie have all been through cultural osmosis. And then back in, I want to say I think it was 2014 maybe, I watched Prometheus, which I loved because I'm a little freak and I love getting into like lore on things, all that kind of stuff. But it was very difficult because I loved finding all the weird like alien architecture and all the stuff of the background of what are they discovering. But then there was also squids bursting out of people's bodies and emergency C-sections and lots of things, which gave me severe anxiety. And so
that movie is gnarly. Yeah,
gnarly is the right word. Gnarly is the right word for that scene in particular. Yikes! I remember I was wasn't tweeting, live private Discording in our channel, and I was like, I got to that scene, and everyone that was following me live tweeting was like, "Oh, we know where you are." Yep. Oh goodness. that was gnarly to the core.
Yeah. So I watched this. I resisted the urge while watching to have the IMDb Parents Guide, which has the beat by beat Heads
Breakdown.
up. Yeah, it's like
You got the
you gives you
IMDb
the-
Parents Guide, Kids in Mind, and Common Sense Media all up.
Yeah.
Yep,
Common Sense
all-
Media's
all
as
at
parallel
once.
on his screen. This
I
is
had
good.
7 screens up, and Shannon was next to me with her hands ready to cover my eyes if any scary parts popped up.
Yes.
She's
So
behind the couch, just
Put a
like
blanket over you. Yeah.
yeah, she was ready.
What
That's
a great
good.
experience.
What a great. That's a good marriage story right there. She's committed to helping you
Yeah.
get through this.
Yeah.
Ben, what was your relationship with the Alien franchise before seeing this? Because I remember when I asked you to do this, you were unsure if you had actually seen this one or not. But I know you'd had other interactions with the Alien franchise.
Yeah, great question. Luke's description there of kind of seeing it, or I guess experiencing it through osmosis, feels pretty similar to me. Like, I thought I had seen things just over the years. You see clips, you see memes, you see all these things. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen this movie. Yeah, definitely haven't seen this movie. And I haven't seen any of the Alien movies, I'm now convinced. Though I have seen, so that probably is incorrect. I have seen Prometheus, and I've seen all the Predator movies. So I'm a full disclaimer, I'm a Predator guy. Always have been, always will be. And so, like, when AVP came out, it's like it was the Eagles against the Cowboys. That was the equivalent for me.
With
Which
Predator
just
being
specify-
the Eagles, obviously.
Yeah,
Right,
you
right,
like
right,
the
right,
Eagles,
right.
so Predator
Yep.
was the Eagles. Yeah, I should probably clarify for people.
Yeah.
So it was. Go ahead, Chris. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, we got love for both Alien and Predator in this house. So
Yeah. There's room at the table for both.
just
Those
the
little-
the guy in the stadium with the NFL shirt. I'm just hoping that both teams have a good time.
Hope everybody enjoys their time in this stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Alien versus Predator. That's a great thing to bring up because I feel like when we were in high school, we were all in high school at similar times, and I remember that movie coming out, and it was this big deal because it was this crossover of franchises, and all the dads were like, "Oh, the '80s is coming together." My dad is a huge Predator guy, not as big of an Alien guy, but we watched Alien. Yeah. Luke's nodding his head like, "Yep, Mr. Mark is a big Predator guy."
Mark Armfield has said multiple times, "Get to the chopper." When I was younger, and I vividly remember him yelling that at youth camp for like it was like junior boys. So none of us had any idea what Predator was.
But he yanked out his submachine gun and went.
He was yelling, "Get to the chopper" all the time.
He painted
6-meter spread.
Yep, painted paint all over his face and hid in the mud. But yeah, so I remember that movie coming out, and I don't know if I had seen Alien when it came out, to be honest. So I wonder if that was one of my first introductions to the series as well. But I do remember watching Alien with my dad.
Yeah. I was going to say Alien vs. Predator was probably my first interaction with either franchise as well, because it came out, when we were of the right age, and it was also PG-13. And so it was easier to see, it was easier to convince the parents to let you see Alien vs. Predator.
Or the dads to convince the moms.
Yeah, exactly. So, but then years later, I don't remember actually the first time I saw Alien, because it's like you said, Zach, at the beginning, like it's one that I've since revisited so many times that I'm not sure actually what my first true like sit down and watch Alien from start to finish was. But it's so good. It's my favorite of the franchise, and if we're talking, we can just keep bringing up Alien and Predator. Of the Alien franchise, I think I do enjoy those movies more, but this is my favorite of them. I know some people might be an Aliens guy. There's the Prometheus Hive out there. Alien Covenant is really good. I'm a big David Fincher guy, so I stump a little bit for Alien 3. But Alien, like it's so pitch perfect in what it's trying to do, and what I think it's trying to do. And the writer Dan O'Bannon and the director Ridley Scott have spoken to it as much as that they wanted to take a B movie, like a trashy genre flick, and take an A movie like pass on it and actually treat it seriously. And I think that totally comes through because all of the horror stuff works super well and all of the alien stuff is super cool, but it also has so much going on around it, with like deeper themes than like most, like, this could have just been like oh yeah, that was a pretty cool like alien flick, but no, it's like it's something else, man.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and even so, regardless of how, like kind of like Chris said, where you fall in liking different parts of the Alien franchise and how much you enjoy the other movies, clearly something has been built out of it. And I love the first Predator in particular, but I feel like they have had a harder time building that out. And Prey, they did that recently, right?
Oh,
That
I
was
love
the one
Prey.
that came out. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
like
yeah.
they're starting to edge in that way, but like Prometheus came out, and then some of the prequel stuff, and then Romulus just came out
Yeah,
with
Romulus,
Alien.
yeah.
So that was I saw that in theaters kind of on a whim and was very impressed. I actually kind of went in with lower expectations and was very, very impressed. I won't spoil that movie since it's newer, but
Yeah.
it was good. It was
And
good.
even
It felt good.
I'm trying to think of like when this episode actually releases will
Yeah, like a
probably be
year and a
around the
half
time
later.
of Alien Earth. Like there's a TV show that they're doing now.
Right.
Oh.
Could probably time it that way.
Yeah,
Probably.
you might actually land
Probably.
like right in the media cycle.
Yes, the TV show they are showing promos for that scare me. The TV show that the commercials for is making me wet my pants.
That's good. That's good. I'll be excited to check that one out. But anyway, yeah. So we can stick to Alien as much as possible because the movie itself, what a good movie! Like
Mhm.
complete package, scary but not gory, crazy scary. Like it's like palatable scary for non-horror fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Should we ask our non-horror fan, Luke? How do you feel? Like, do you feel like it was like stomachable? Like, or was it like scarier or gorier than you expected, or vice versa?
I think that's a good question because I think a lot of this goes to show Ridley Scott or whoever was the behind the camera and the actual cinematographer on this. I thought the scenes that were the most effective as far as the terror of this were not necessarily the creature itself, but the way they used camera angles to give you this sense of you are in a small, limited space with something that is inhuman, something that is alien. Oh, he said the name of the movie.
There it is.
And I thought even little scenes like I think so much of the scene at the end when Ridley is in the escape pod alone with the alien, that scene, it's there, it's right next to her, was not nearly as frightening to me as scenes where she is navigating through. I think I sent you guys a picture in Discord of the scene of when Ridley is walking down holding the flamethrower.
Yeah.
Kind of walking through the hallways at the end, and just the lights are flashing and it keeps doing close-ups, and it's got this camera angle that's kind of tilted back looking up at her, showing how small of a hallway she's in. And that absolutely, I think I messaged you guys and said I'm straight up not having a good time. It's just the stress of it versus these scenes where the alien is there, it's in full picture, and it's clearly a guy in a suit.
Yeah.
And it's not frightening whatsoever. But the way they do music, lights, sometimes just the silence of the noise of the alarm going off, just deeply concerning. The chest burster scene, I'll wrap my thoughts up here real quick, it lives up to the hype. That is one of the that is up there with John Carpenter's The Thing as far as some of the most gruesome body horror I've seen in a movie. It was deeply unsettling. I was having a very bad time, even though I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. They sit down every time they sat down to eat. I was like, oh my gosh, they hadn't even gone. They were sitting down to eat
It's like the
in the opening scenes. And I was like, oh my gosh, here it is. They haven't even landed on the planet with the space jockey yet. But that scene, one scene probably that was the most disturbing to me that I wasn't aware of was when it was revealed that Ash was an android.
Yeah, dude.
And that was Shannon we watched it together. She had never seen the movie. She kept on saying, "What is happening? What is?" We were both saying, "What is going on?" over and over again.
Yeah.
It was so unexpected. It's a scene that I never hear being talked about,
Mm.
but I think was absolutely just as concerning and distressing. I felt my heart bursting out of my chest for a movie where multiple times when you see the alien, I felt silly for being afraid of it. There were also multiple scenes in that same movie where I felt just my skin crawling. I felt my stomach hurting. It was amazing. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude. Like I'm glad you called out those shots of where Ripley is running down the hallway holding the flamethrower, because it's looking up at her, and it's you don't see what she's seeing. You're seeing what's behind her. And so you're like waiting for something to be like behind the camera almost. And the same thing kind of happens when Harry Dean Stanton's character Brett, when he's going through to look for the cat, and it keeps having these tight shots of just his face, and you're not seeing what he's looking at, and you're just looking up in the rafters, like you're kind of trying to figure out, like, is there something back there, or is there something outside the frame? Because this camera angle is so tight on him, like what's around him, like where is this creature?
And the interesting thing is there really aren't many, if any, jump scares in the movie. It
At
really
least like
does
there's maybe like
really,
two. I can think of like
yeah.
the one that I think is actually one of the more effective jump scares that I think I've ever seen is the Dallas, the captain, when he is going through the air ducts, and they
Yes.
when Lambert is like tracking him and is like saying like, you got to get out of there. She's starting to freak out, and like he doesn't see it, and then he turns around. By the time it's too late, it's like right there in his face. Like they are there, but they're not. It's not like it's not like reliant on them.
It reminds me almost in a way, which is going to be a weird pull, but hang with me. It reminds me of almost how David Lynch will use jump scares in some of his movies.
Sure.
Whether it's even some of the jump scares like in Wild at Heart, or the really infamous ones like from Mulholland Drive, where Scott in this movie has this tendency just to linger on some of these shots in a way that seems a little bit too long, to the point where you would think it would make you comfortable. Like, oh, something's going to happen. Oh, nothing happens. But it keeps building this anxiety and this stress. And then boom, he gets you. Finally, after a little bit, in an interesting way of mixing it up. But yeah, I jumped, I cried. I wet my pants. I had a great time.
Yes. That sounds like a good time to me.
Yep. Yeah. It's good. It's good.
So Ben, you're a big Predator guy. And I think the Predator is so cool because of its design. Like, just the Predator itself is just one of the coolest like designs. Now, having gone back to this, or going back to Alien, what did you kind of think about like was there stuff that you weren't expecting, or like things you were just like, oh man, that actually is cool, like the alien, like, or what did you think about that?
Maybe you hated it.
Or did you hate it? Or were you just like, nope, Predator still clears?
Ooh. Well, just to be clear for the audience, I'm not a predator.
Did I say
Thank
Predator,
you.
or did I say Predator fan?
I'm just a fan.
That's probably a
of
good
the Predator
clarification.
But what are your opinions on Predators?
Yeah, what are your opinions on Predator?
The alien race predators. Yeah. We'll keep.
Yeah. So, man, goodness. So, one thing that's interesting is for Luke and I going into this movie, and he referenced this a couple times, we have all these things we're just ready for it to happen. We know so much about what could happen in this movie, but A, we don't know if it'll happen in this movie. B, we don't know when it's going to happen. When is someone's chest going to explode? When are they going to find? When we see the egg opening up, we know that an alien's going to come out, but we don't know when, we don't know how. Is it going to jump right on this? So it's like, it for some things maybe diminished it a little bit, and for others it gave us even more anxiety because we were literally on the edge of our seats the whole entire movie, expecting what we've heard about these movies for years and years and what we saw in Prometheus. So I thought, and to Luke's point, when you actually see the alien, that was really never the scary parts. It was leading up to it. I think one of my favorite scenes was Dallas's last moments. That whole like going back and forth, getting the communication from the team. Is it up? Is it down? That was just wild. And I really had no idea where the alien was going to end up coming from. So that was extremely well done, in my opinion. But yeah, I want to watch all the other ones now. So I'm definitely in. I'm definitely interested. I'm not converted, but I'm a fan.
You don't
for
have
sure.
to be. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
There's like I said, there's room in my heart for both.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Chris, you touched on this. They do different things, and so like there was this blending, right? There was AVP. Was there multiple of those?
There's
Honestly.
also AVP Requiem, which is maybe of both franchises is my like least favorite out of all of them.
Horrible.
Like,
I've heard
it's really bad. Yeah,
it's bad.
So you have Alien, you have Predator. They both came out. They're both contemporaries of each other. Thus, why they had this cross thing. But at the same time, it's such a weird, like they're really different genres. Like one is this action-packed action movie, Predator, and then Alien really is like this. I really love how they phrase that, Chris. Like I never heard that they were phrasing it that way, as far as like, let's take a B movie and make it A level. That's so cool. Like what a fun project. Like even if it tanked, is like, this was probably a fun thing for them, right?
yeah.
So but it didn't. It was amazing.
Yeah,
and
right.
so I think it holds up so well. And even though some of them are not as good as Alien, there's this like path that they can follow, that the Alien, with technology being what we have now, can get more terrifying. So there's like this ground that they can build off of with the horror, but also expanding into this universe of like this terrifying creature. And see, like with Ash being present, I'm actually really glad, Luke, that wasn't spoiled for you, because that is such a fun, crazy plot twist. Is like there's this group of people that are trying to capture this alien because it's the quote unquote perfect, human, not human, but perfect being that they want to emulate. And so there's this element of like building out of the franchise that is fun. It's fun to watch, from just what started as a let's take a B-rated genre and make it into an A-rated movie. That's so cool to me.
Yeah, I just love the layers they are adding in, right? There isn't this exposition. All that happens is they wake up, they talk. Oh, they're sitting there trying to get their shares, their haulers. Oh no, we now have to go because we are ethically and legally obligated to go explore this distress signal. Oh no, the organization we work for is evil and corrupt. Oh no, there's a supercomputer. Oh, what on earth? There are robots in this world. Of course there are robots in the world this movie takes place in. It's in the future. And I think it's interesting where it has all of those layers, and it's done in such like a fun little way where there's no digging into it, even ignorant of all the stuff that comes in with Prometheus and in some of the other Alien movies once James Cameron gets his hands in it. Without all those details, you still have this incredibly rich and fascinating little horror story, right? And I love how that's done. I remember, I keep going back, and I know a couple other people have mentioned it, when Chris was talking about how the idea of like, taking a B horror movie and then making it into like this taken very serious prestige style thing. I don't know if this is true, but I remember on Jason Concepcion, one of his podcasts, they mentioned that in the marketing leading up to this movie, there was no pictures of the alien. That wasn't
Correct.
of the
Yeah.
xenomorph wasn't
Yeah.
in any of the marketing. So the idea of what this was, I love that, because for me, I know what a xenomorph looks like. I know exactly what it looks like, even after having never seen Alien. I know what it is. So the idea of in 79 audiences sitting there watching this movie, their first clips of it, they aren't seeing it. They're just seeing little bits and pieces of it, right? They have no idea what this thing even begins to look like until it bursts out of, is it Kane's chest?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
rip.
Yeah. Seriously.
There's nothing until that moment. So I think of the horror, the word of mouth that would go around that, to where you probably wouldn't be able to even know what this incredibly iconic monster from film looks like unless you actually go and see the movie.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Which nowadays, when a horror movie comes out, after I read the Wikipedia plot about it and say, wow, never watching that, thank goodness, the first thing I do is I go to look up what the monster looks like.
Yeah.
Back to satisfy some sick curiosity. In 79,
Google it.
you wouldn't have that option, which I just think is a cool little note.
And so, Chris, when did A New Hope come out?
So yeah, that's part of this. So I can just go into that, like how, like why and how this kind of came to be.
Yeah.
So
because it's got to be contemporary, right?
yep.
It's like
So
same
it's
time?
2 years after A New Hope by the same studio. They're both 20th Century
There you go.
Fox films.
Yeah.
And so Dan O'Bannon had worked on one of John Carpenter's first films called Dark Star, and I want to say that there were like monsters, and that it was a sci-fi thing. It was set in space, but it was a little goofier. Like it was comedic, and he had an idea of like, what if this was actually scary? Like, what if like we actually made this scary? And I don't know when Ridley Scott was kind of brought on. This was only Ridley Scott's second film. He had done a film called The Duelist before that. That's like a pretty classic, like, medieval France kind of swords story that he would then later on go to do a ton of great stuff in that kind of vein. But so and Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, those were the two guys. They pitched the idea for Alien to 20th Century Fox to do this blend, and they got Ridley Scott on board, and and it was a lot easier to sell post Star Wars making $1 billion in 1977 dollars than it would have been before. I've also heard other people in podcasts kind of compare it. It's like it's almost like Star Wars and Jaws, like these two movies that kind of came out also in the 70s, like kind of like is almost a blend of them. Like these, Jaws is another one where you don't see the shark a lot, like, and when you do see it, it has a lot greater effect or whatever. And
is that what that movie's about? A shark?
It is about a shark, yes.
Oh, okay. Spoilers.
So yeah, that's kind of, that's why it's a contemporary of it, which is, it's also crazy to me, like, and just like how well those two films still hold up compared to other stuff, like stuff in the 70s. I think we had mentioned in the past on the previous episode about how, like, it's kind of when I feel like the modern film canon kind of starts. Stuff before that, like I don't have as much experience with, but the 70s were the start of like the filmmakers seeing a lot of movies and serials and taking those ideas and putting them into their own ideas, and like that kind of coming out, like George Lucas, like making Star Wars was so much of him being obsessed with like Flash Gordon and Akira Kurosawa, like samurai films, and like blending that all together. And similarly, like Ridley Scott and O'Bannon had all this stuff that they were pulling from, almost like they would admit that they just like lifted ideas and shots and things directly from other creators, including, like, you can't talk about Alien without mentioning H.R. Giger, who is a Swedish artist, who had done like this art book that I think was like straight up called like the Necronomicon. Like he was just like a real weirdo.
Yeah, it was. I think he lived really close to Lake Geneva.
I would,
all
yeah.
the weirdos live in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
What a
right.
weirdo. What a
including
weirdo
this
state.
one.
Including
Yeah.
one of them on here.
Edit
So,
that
yeah.
out. Don't dox me.
They bring him on to do the creature design for the xenomorph, who they
Ben was offended by that.
Yeah.
He was offended by the Wisconsin thing.
Wow.
It's okay.
This-
He'll come back.
Yeah. The xenomorph design from H.R. Giger was like lifted from drawings he had already done that they had seen in those books, and they just edited them a little bit, like, you know,
Sure.
like took out its eyes and just gave it that flat head kind of look.
Which is such a bizarre look. Can we like it?
It's so creepy.
It's so creepy. It's no eyes. It's double mouth. It's truly like how do you even come up with this, original or not? Like it's just it's so
Yeah.
creepy, man.
Each stage too. That was the other thing I wanted to bring up that I think Luke had alluded to, is like there's no like exposition. There's no character saying like the most exposition you really get is like when they're talking about the acid blood that's burning the floor or whatever, and they're like, "That's acid," you know, like that's like that's like
Yeah.
the only
That must be
exposition.
its
Not
blood.
you understand like that there's the face hugger, or the egg hatches, the thing attaches it to its face, it like impregnates the person, and then you have the chest burster, and then they find like the little molten skin on the ground, and they're all like there's things about them that are familiar, and then like just also completely not. Like I think about like the face hugger and how weird it looks when they start dissecting it, and it's like the underside of a crab, but somehow worse, you know, and then it has like these spider legs and a scorpion tail, and it's fleshy looking. Like all those practical
And the
effects
way it
are incredible.
runs, like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, ugh, like
Yeah.
don't chase me, man. Please go back to your acid ocean or whatever you live in.
Well, and we just I just love the idea of it is something that the way it is built, the way it's designed, like the idea behind the biology of it is something that we see in almost, this is the quintessential alien terror. I mean, if you look in like video game and board game and tabletop stuff, like look at StarCraft, like look at Warhammer 40K, like the ultimate terrors in those universes are the Tyranids and the Zerg, and they are just this ultimate killing machine that is clearly heavily inspired by xenomorphs. I think there was even some stuff where the original Warhammer was supposed to be based off of Alien, but Games Workshop couldn't get the license. Yeah,
sure.
I that might be one of those things that I had heard and took as fact because it makes sense. I know.
Well, it's written in stone now.
I know. Well,
It's
I do. Look at me
completely
just spreading misinformation willy nilly. Man, podcasting is great. You can just say things and people will believe you. I love that.
Yeah,
I love this.
There's thousands of listeners that will.
All of our hundreds of thousands. Yeah, is this abusing our audience?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
the trust at least. But we have a businessman, and he's back now, so he can vouch.
That's actually what I was doing. I was looking into if what we were doing was legal. Turns out, okay, TBD.
Yeah, it's not right.
You didn't finish that sentence. You just said "turns out" and then stopped.
The only thing illegal about this is how much money we're going to be making, because it should be illegal to make that much money off of such a bad idea.
So good.
It's true.
Wow, makes you think.
You should ask me and Colb how much money we've made. It's ridiculous.
How much money have you guys made?
More than Ben. We haven't told Ben at all about the profits.
Oh man, is it like ones of dollars?
It's like you take some zeros and there's a one in there somewhere, but you don't know if it's at the left or the right, and that's how much money we've made.
So here's the fun thing. Specifically, H.R. Giger is credited with specifically designing the alien creature, the xenomorph,
Mhm.
as well as the space jockey
The one
Yeah.
that jumps at the
itself.
face hugger thing. Yeah.
No,
The
that's like
space
the giant skeleton that's in the spaceship when they first go inside the spaceship on the planet.
Oh.
That it's like, and it has some sort of face hugger on it, but it's like so decayed, you can't
Right.
really tell what happened.
Interesting.
And in Prometheus, say that 5 times fast. We
Mhm.
know that is actually one of the engineers
Yep.
who is flying that. Spoiler alert.
Oh,
Yeah, spoiler alert for a like
Yeah.
12-year-old movie. Yeah.
Yep.
Also, if you're ever bored, look up H.R. Geiger's design and
I'm
film. It is fascinating how many things he has played a part in, even to the point of, fun fact, the Harkonnen chair in the original Dune movie. And a lot of the iconography in that was developed by Geiger with Lynch, are two of our world's foremost freaks of the 20th century.
I want to
Fair
say
enough.
there's actually a Dune connection here, and I want to say it was actually that Ridley Scott was pegged to do the Dune adaptation, and it ended up falling through, and then eventually a few years later fell on Lynch. But I think that was why he was able to do this, is because his Dune production like fell through.
Fair enough.
That,
The
yeah,
world
that's
is
coming
better
back
for
to me
it.
now. Yeah,
One-
right. Yeah.
One other fun little tidbit, and then
Oh, thank
I'll stop
goodness.
yapping for now. That's right. This is a good one. Did you know that Alien and Blade Runner take place in the same universe?
This disturbs me, and I don't
It's
know.
it takes place in the same universe.
Is like the Wayland Yutani Corporation like in the background of a scene or something?
There are emails in this movie, and there are things that Mother mentions in like the mainframe that are directly referencing, and that even continues on into James Cameron's Aliens.
Sure, yeah.
There's multiple references that go across, right? So it's
Well, now
feasible.
my
So
world is
replicants and
blown up.
androids are separate things, right? But
Right.
this takes place in the same
Oh,
universe.
what?
And
Yeah,
that's
This is
not
blowing my
even
brain.
that's not even just like a fun people who need to go outside more and stop reading about Alien and Blade Runner. That's an actual thing, which is
That's
pretty
an
cool.
actual Easter egg.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So if you, I guess you just said it, replicants and androids are different things. So it's going to be like, so if you cut open Deckard, he would like have the weird like milk blood. And, like,
Yeah.
That's so
Only-
weird.
Only one way to find out.
Yeah. Oh man,
That's crazy.
That whole sequence where like you referenced it earlier too, where like it's really creepy. Like, and once you know that Ash is an android and he's working on behalf of the company, as they refer to it in this film, it's really fun to watch what he does. Like it's a movie where if you watch it the second time and you just watch what he's doing, every step of the way he's doing something that either like preserves the alien or like keeps it around. Like, you know, he's the one that like says not to go after the chest burster after it bursts out of Kane. Like he's the one that's like advocating that they need to keep the alien around and they need to study it, you know, and it's like comes off as the ruse of being a science officer. But then once Ripley discovers that like they've been redirected away from Earth and everything, and that whole sequence is so weird. And like when he starts choking her with the magazine, like the rolled up magazine, it's so weird. Like just and then then his head gets knocked off, and then you're like, oh, what is really going on?
Milk starts pouring. One of my favorite little notes of that is if you go back and you look at the scene where Ripley comes up and is starting to confront him about, you know, we've got to get out of here. You know, I want to talk to Mother. If you notice, he really quickly turns off the screen he was looking at. But if you go back and look, it's an X-ray of, I believe, I can't remember, Kane before the chest burster. And you can see the little like zygote of the alien inside of his chest cavity.
So
he
starting
knows,
to grow. So he knew and he was trying to advance it. But I love so much all the themes in this movie. It's you mentioned it. I don't know if we mentioned it before, but there's a lot of idea in here behind like sexual assault
Oh, yeah.
and rape. There's a lot of themes on that. There's a lot of critique of companies that view employees who are viewing the jobs as, oh, this is my buck, right? They're talking about, this is my share, got to get my money. The company they are doing this hard work is views them completely as being disposable. It's a very deep movie for being effectively a movie about a alien that kills people.
It's like a haunted house movie. Yeah, it's like there's a monster in the house. Like, yeah, no, you're totally right. Like, because I love all the they just want to get the work done. They're not soldiers, which is actually one of the best parts about Aliens, is because those guys are soldiers, and you get to see how that plays out. But these guys aren't soldiers. There's no like military training or anything. They're just sailors or truckers, pretty much.
They're space truckers.
7 of them just hauling ore, like, and they had this obligation, a contractual obligation, so it does affect their money in order to go find this
which they're very specific about
transmission.
Like, so if we go do this, we're gonna get a bonus, right? And they're like very, very specific about always trying to get more money, and most of the time they just you're almost writing off with the other crew members, like, these guys are so greedy, like they just care about the money, like there's a person in trouble. But then as it turns, you're like, this is just blue collar dudes, like that are stuck now with
they
a
don't
very
even know if it's people. Like they're just like, there is a transmission. There's no like, we don't know if it's alien in source or if it's human in source. Like, we have no idea. We were woken out of cryo sleep, and I'm operating off of like some Cheerios, some coffee, and cigarettes. Like,
it is definitely the 70s where you're smoking cigarettes.
Oh man, could you imagine what a cigarette would be like to smoke in space?
I don't even. Does it even work in space? Maybe it doesn't even work in space.
Can you smoke?
Can you? No, in space, no one can see you smoke.
Yeah, people don't know. So, but then, as you also touched on, like the sexual violence and rape elements are so overt, and that part of that comes out of H.R. Giger's, like, everything looks like genitalia, like everything looks like something gross, and
1-to-1 replica for me.
And then like even like the newspaper in the mouth, like everything is like some sort of like attack or violation, like it's, and even up the end scene in the film where you think it's ended and she like takes off her spacesuit. She is like in her
she's vulnerable
underwear. She's vulnerable. Yeah, she's at her most vulnerable, and then discovers that the xenomorph's like taking a nap in like the escape pod that she's on. Like the ship is blown up, and it's just literally her, this cat, and this giant creature. Like everything kind of plays into that, and like plays on those fears. I saw there was even discussion about like there's the sequence where Parker and Lambert, who are the last two to die, like Lambert, like being the other female on the crew, like it's a very weird shot where like you see like the tail, like, its tail go like underneath her legs or whatever, and then when you see her next, you don't, like, for some reason now she doesn't have pants and she's like just hanging from the rafters, and there's a lot of like discussion of like, what do you think happened, and like you could go down that rabbit hole of like, was there some sort of like violation, but I think what it's really there for is just to kind of just conjure up those ideas, like, because the creature itself is probably just looking to either feed or procreate, but it's not doing it out of some like gross sexual manner. It is just a creature, but
it's just an alien.
It still conjures up, as you as the viewer, it still conjures up those fears and is like, oh gosh, that is really awful. Like,
it's playing on your innate sense of what is like right and wrong, and it's wrong that a vulnerable person be taken advantage of, is what you would hope most people are going to react to. So it's playing off of like, this person is clearly powerless. Like as the scene plays out, like it's just so clear she has no chance. She's gonna die.
Yes.
This creature is just
She's cooked.
completely in control, and so it's just like when you see that, and then you see such devastation, you're left with this feeling of like this creature is not just powerful, but maybe like it's just defending itself. No, it's just brutalizing everything, and it just has to be stopped. Because this is wrong. It's trying to play into this sense of like you have to dislike what is going on.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
yeah. Yeah. If you don't, keep those opinions to yourself.
This is not the crew for you.
I love
Do some reading, dog.
Yeah. There's I'll try to find it. There was a great TikTok account I had seen by this filmmaker. This filmmaker, I think his name's like Henry Longmire. He's very Southern. So if you ever wanted to listen to someone talk about Alien in a Southern accent, talk about the themes of it,
tell me more.
Shout out to this guy. He's he does a good job, but I saw this video where he was breaking down early in the movie one of the scenes where it's early enough where you don't know who the main character is. If I had never seen the movie, which I hadn't up until this point, but if I hadn't had the awareness of Ripley as a character, I would have not in a million years, based on the first 30 minutes of the movie, thought that she is the main focus. Sure. She's the one who's going to survive. Right.
Sure.
And early on, there's these great shots where you have Henry Dean Stanton and some of those other cast, some of the blue collar workers, and Dallas, the captain, sitting there talking. And they're talking about their shares, they're shooting the breeze. And in the background of the shot, you have Ripley and Lambert talking, the two science officers on the ship, sitting there actually talking about the nuts and bolts details of how they are going to accomplish what these blue collar guys in the front are talking about. But the way it's framed is they are in the back. This is a side conversation, and these guys are just dismissing everything they say out of hand, ignoring everything they have to say, even to the point where they are like trying to drive Ripley away early on when there's an issue with the steam is popping out, and they're just playing pranks on her. So early on is just this idea of women being dismissed and pushed off to the side, even in these situations where Ripley and Lambert are saying all the right things. They are making all the right calls early on. Yeah. Even Ripley right away,
she's the one that's always the most concerned and is like, hey, we have a protocol here about letting in an alien we are not sure about. Yeah. And
you're just
breaking it for no reason. Like, what? They do have the reason that they're trying to save Kane, but at the same time, there's like protocols there that were in place for this kind of thing, and they're ignored. And she's like, "Why are we ignoring them?"
Yeah,
because I'm a robot.
Yeah, all these themes and stuff that I never would have thought Ridley Scott would have in him to kind of dig into some of that, and I think it's really well done in a way where I felt like it was subtle. Some of those little things with the shots and stuff, but it really does kind of build on and add to this whole idea of he wants to put you in a woman's shoes, especially in this time period, right? In the late 70s, he wants to make you feel like, well, this is what it would be like for a woman in society, right? At this time, which is great to have a man tell us that and show us that. So then us four men can come and talk about it.
White men.
Us four white men are talking about it.
It's Ridley Scott's like, thank goodness someone finally gets it and can explain it to everyone.
Yeah. 4 college friends.
You're welcome, women.
For all our
just kidding.
All your lady listeners.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious though. So there's a lot of depth. I want to reel it back to the surface though. I know from experience, because I've shared quite a number of hours with Ben, that Ben has you have an eye for the enjoyment level of things. And I'm actually very curious from both you and Luke. Like, did you, because there's a lot of fun things you can dig into. There's a whole franchise now, but like, was this a fun film? Did you walk away like that was a good popcorn flick? Like I actually enjoyed watching this because I knew I was going to enjoy it going in. But how did you? What was your enjoyment level? of the
Well,
movie?
that's
Would you watch it
well,
again?
gosh, that's three different things now. Um,
Sorry, one more
so
question. And then
yes,
you
I
can...
enjoyed it very much. I'd watch it again. I'd watch more of them. It wasn't necessarily fun. I don't know that that's
Okay.
what somebody's looking for with this type of movie. I don't think to the same extent as our good friend Luke here, but I'm not huge into the horror films, scenes, or movies in general. But I very much enjoyed this. Um, yeah, so yes to a lot of that. And if I could add a couple more things while I have the floor, if that's okay. Um, so I
Please
was
do.
feeling some strong, and there's a pro to both what I'm going to reference and Alien in this is some strong Star Wars vibes at the beginning as we're like getting brought under that ship, and when we were brought into the ship, I'm like, oh my word, this is almost like shot for shot for some things. So I think that on one level that's cool, the impact of Star Wars, but the other side of it is it did not take long at all till that thought completely ran out of my head and I was in a different universe. It wasn't that I just felt the whole time, oh yeah, there's another Star Wars thing or there's this or there's that. That it was probably when they were sitting down, like right away, I was just boom, I was in their world and I loved it. It was so good.
That's good. It's good. I do love there's a Star Wars has a very it's old and it's in space, and it always feels to me like it's not that it's a clean movie, but it's not one that I would describe as gritty necessarily. This movie to me has maybe The New Hope has some gritty moments, especially when they kill
Yeah,
off the
I
arm.
think if I could go down that hole or go down that rabbit hole, it's yes, the grittiness. Like there's Tatooine, like all of Star Wars at the beginning, is a lot of like old tech. It is dark. It is run down or whatever. But then there are like the scenes on the Death Star where everything is a lot more pristine and
Yes,
kind
yeah,
of polished or whatever, and it shows that there's room for both of these aesthetics. Whereas
yeah,
there might be like if you were to just take Alien at its face value, there might be nicer ships out there. Like obviously, like humans are going to other planets and mining stuff. There might be nicer quality of life, but this is just a big hauling vehicle, and
right,
it
right,
operates as such. And you've got to have the two engineers that know how the ductwork works on the ship to how to reroute
yeah.
things. And yeah, I love that whole
I
like
like
retro
that.
futurism aesthetic. Yeah, it works so well in this movie.
It's
Like
also very mechanical. Like
yeah,
you can feel the clicking and the noises is like you feel the push of the button that they're gonna have to do right to like fix something. It's not like there's a CGI element that is so absent that in this day and age you feel it
hmm
so abruptly with how mechanical everything is. Steam and smoke is filling the air and like
there's
doors opening and
chains and it's
shutting. It's
wet
like
inside for some reason.
yeah, yeah. Where's this rain coming from? That's
Yeah.
what I want to know. But like when doors open and shut, it's not just a swoosh. It's like a
Yeah,
like
like
you know what I
the
mean?
when Dallas is like in the air ducts and there's those like almost like camera aperture like doors that like
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
and
Those
you hear the metal
those.
scraping closed or whatever. Yeah, and it's funny because later on in this franchise and in Ridley Scott's movies, like Prometheus and Alien Covenant are very like they're shot on digital and they are
Mhm.
very filled with CGI. And he's also good at that. And those movies also look incredible. But I do like how like tactile everything is and like
Tactile. That's the
yeah.
word.
Yeah,
Well,
It's
everything you
good.
can tell it's on sets, you know. Like you can
yeah.
tell that they made a bunch of this stuff. I know that there's like documentaries that you can just find on YouTube that are all about like the making of all like the production stuff, like things like even down to the creature design. Like I said, like the weird like how the bottom of the face hugger looks like when you turn a crab over or whatever. There's like that kind of stuff, and like the aliens like teeth, like it's something like they like shredded up condoms and like made to give it that like rubbery like feel when it's like lips are peeling back or whatever. Like all this kind of stuff that they use to make this thing look, you know, like a thing that the actors are reacting against in the space.
Yeah,
Good.
I love too as well that it does really well in this is one of my favorite tropes in like fantasy and science fiction is you discover something that is so foreign and just unknowable to the point where even like the space jockey's ship is almost made out of like something else, right? And you see this in Prometheus where a significant amount of the like ships that the engineers have or the things they do are all biological, right? None of it's technical. So you have this juxtaposition of this old oil, grime, machinery stuff is clanking around, human stuff, and then you have discovered on this faraway planet this alien species that has evolved and gone through in this way that is completely unknowable, and it adds almost to the horror of we are so completely out of our element here.
Yeah.
To where even the way they fly through space or the way they exist, they've created these biological weapons of these aliens, and from Prometheus the black goo, right? In this, and it just adds to me almost this additional horror element of you don't even understand what you're actually looking at, versus like the way the door is like, the aperture, I can understand that. I know enough about gears and WD-40 to kind of get an idea of how that works. But
that is definitely what they used to build that ship, though.
Absolutely.
WD-40.
Yeah, it's just spray. That's it's actually not water on the floor. It's just,
just
silicone-based lubricant.
A lot of WD-40.
Yeah. But to answer your question, I enjoyed the movie and I will never watch it again. I do not like horror movies. They scare me.
Yeah.
I link to that Grantland article about how it's the person who has the mind of someone who likes horror movies, but not the heart. That is me to a
That's
T.
funny.
Do you think you'd be
go ahead.
interested at all in any of the others? Like because Aliens is so much more of like an action movie. It's still like, has like the xenomorphs in it, but like it's the guy that made Terminator 2 and Titanic rather than the guy that made this in Blade Runner.
Only if one of the Space Marines and the Xenomorph have sex in a classic car on a spaceship. If they don't, if that doesn't happen, I'm not
see the Xenomorph hand hit the window.
You see the second mouth pop up on the window. No, I might. I like I said, I really enjoyed Prometheus, but it's one of those things where I watched it partly because everyone else was watching it and I didn't want to be that guy, but I enjoyed it because of some of those other elements, and I don't know if James Cameron is going to bring that to play. I'm a famous Avatar hater. I think Avatar is mid, visually stunning, very cool, boring story. Not into it, not into the world Cameron created on that. I don't understand the people who go crazy for it. I'm gonna hop off my soapbox now before I get canceled for not liking Avatar.
That's fair enough.
It's funny because that's like I think that's a pretty like common criticism of it, and those movies still make $1 billion.
They still
Like,
make $1 billion.
They're good popcorn movies, right?
Yeah.
If you gave me the choice, if you held one of Henry Dean Stanton's darts that he's ripping in this movie in front of one of my eyes and said, I'm going to put this in your eye if you don't watch either Aliens or Way of Water 3 times in a row, I'm probably going to choose to watch Way of Water 3 times in a row instead, just because it's going to be less stressful.
Fair enough.
And a lot longer. I'm just going to let you know it's going to be a lot
that'll
longer.
be
I know. I was thinking about
18
that.
hours of your life right there.
I can eat a lot of popcorn at least.
There you
That's
go.
true.
Yeah.
Well, I will definitely watch this movie again. I've already watched it a million times. My favorite viewing I've ever had of this movie, and I still, for nostalgia's sake, would say it's my favorite viewing. We had a old DVD player TV. So it's like one of those old small
DVD
TVs.
combo. Yeah.
And it had you load it in from the top, and it just had speakers on the side. And it's probably even like, it was probably, I don't know what the aspect ratio was, but it was probably
Could have been a 4x3.
like,
Yeah.
right, like a square screen. And I watched it at the youth camp that Luke referenced. I used to live in a trailer up there for the summer because my parents would do stuff and at the camp all summer, and I watched it at night, like basically in the woods, in the dark, by myself in this trailer. Sitting like probably like 2 feet away from it with this tiny screen. It's probably smaller than my laptop that I'm recording on right now. And it was phenomenal. Like watching it and being scared of like this alien creature as I'm alone in the woods. So that was one of my favorite ones. But I do love this franchise, and I will watch it. I'm also not a horror film person, but I do love sci-fi a lot. So Alien is just enough in the horror room where I'm not off put by that. So a lot of freaky stuff in sci-fi. So, you know, I can get scared by sci-fi stuff, but it's not like there's an axe murderer that's going to jump out with an alien's face and kill me. So that's called Strangers, and that's at a house near where Luke grew up. So
yeah, that was a tough night driving back from a Sent by Ravens show, old Nail Records band.
Yeah,
that was
past the stranger's house.
That was a very scary thing to realize, that I was trying to figure out where I was on this back road, and then suddenly look up and be like, oh my gosh, that's the house they filmed The Strangers at. Tough hang.
Yep. But Chris, you have a thing where you'll tell us if you did like Alien, what's the Netflix algorithm of like, you should watch these other films.
So and I usually like to go down 2 roads. One of the roads I would like to go down is,
all right, Robert Frost.
Yeah, if you that was good. One of Robert Frost's roads is if you want to just keep watching Ridley Scott movies, he's got like a ton of time. You know, he's just got a really great and varied filmography. Like one of the coolest things about Ridley Scott is that he wasn't just, after making Alien and Blade Runner, 2 of the most iconic sci-fi movies of all time, he didn't just be like a sci-fi or a horror guy or whatever. Is probably the next thing he was most well known for was like Thelma and Louise. And then after that, he had Gladiator and Black Hawk Down, Kingdom of Heaven. He did The Martian, which is a great one from the last 10 years or so. He's had a bunch of stinkers as well, but like those are
everybody does.
Those are ones I would recommend heavily from him. And then even if you want to go into the other Alien films he has made, Prometheus and Alien Covenant are prequels to Alien that focus more almost on like the biblical and like themes of ideas of like creation, that this film like kind of, there's like little lines and stuff that kind of touch on that, but Prometheus and Alien Covenant like really get into like the like, what does it mean to create, what does it mean to be created kind of stuff. So the other Robert Frost road you could go down, just other stuff that this movie went on to inspire. If you want the more like just B movie version of this, Event Horizon from 1997 by Paul W.S. Anderson that's a crazy movie. It is really crazy.
Wild Wikipedia plot synopsis journey.
It'll take turns. That is a great sci-fi one. Pitch Black, and the other like Riddick movies, a similar aesthetic, like the kind of like grimy space stuff, and then maybe the one that I think I would love to do a double feature with, that I think we actually might talk about on this pod. I can't remember if it's scheduled or not, but The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing.
It is scheduled as of this moment. We'll
okay,
see.
yeah.
If it stays on, there you go. But
like those 2 are like, the Alien and The Thing are just like sci-fi horror 6 out of 5 star masterpieces for me. I love them both so much. So yeah,
Awesome.
those would be my algorithm recommendations.
Oh, Sam Neill from Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
Lawrence
he's in Event
Fishburne.
Horizon. Yep.
Okay. Look
Yeah.
at this.
Yeah.
Look at this
And
little
he-
cast.
And he has a great time in that movie,
Yeah.
by the
Yeah,
way.
it's
I'm
just
sure
so
he
good.
does.
He has a good time.
I could also go down the rest of the Alien franchise. So as we mentioned, so it's Aliens, by Jim Cameron, Alien 3 or Alien Cube. It's like Alien to the Power of 3. That's David Fincher's directorial debut. There was a lot of studio meddling, so it's not as good of a watch as any other David Fincher film, but it's, if you're a fan of his like I am and a fan of Alien, like you kind of do have to see it. There is like the assembly cut version, which is a little closer to I think what David Fincher wanted it to be. You have Alien Resurrection, which is one of my least favorites. I believe that's from like 97.
Yeah. Late 90s is tough sometimes.
It's like late 90s. It's like, it's also right like before like the Phantom Menace, and like the Phantom Menace is like funny. It's just better than it. Like it's like Star Wars and Alien kind of meeting back again.
It was a little much when Ripley and the Xenomorph have a pod race.
Sure.
That was a bit.
It's a
that
tough
was
thing.
a bit much, but yeah, it just
Now
it
this
was
is
really
pod
forced
racing.
in. Yeah.
Said the Xeno.
Yeah, Prometheus, Alien Covenant, which are connected, and there's been rumors recently. There's rumors all the time, but that Ridley Scott might get another crack at a third film in that would be kind of like a spiritual trilogy, whereas like those first four are much more about Ripley. These ones would be like Ridley Scott's kind of trilogy. And then you have Fede Alvarez's Alien Romulus from this year, 2024, and Alien Earth coming up. Yeah.
Romulus is a crazy ride.
Romulus is interesting. It plays so much on Alien and Aliens. It's set between them. There's elements from both. You know, you've got like a lot of the ship stuff from Alien, but then like they come across like the pulse rifles from Aliens. You know, it's a little bit almost like to keep going back to Star Wars. It's a little Force Awakens-ish. I had a really good time with it though, and
same.
I would love to see Fede Alvarez get another crack at the Alien franchise and do something that's a little bit more in his style. He is a really like nasty, bloody director. And that comes out at times in Romulus.
Oh, good lord!
But like
I don't know if I could handle more.
Yeah, he did the 2013 Evil Dead remake, and that thing is like Evil Dead. Like is still, I think the first one is pretty scary, whereas like 2 and 3 like lean into like it is just Looney Tunes or like Itchy and Scratchy, in its comedic elements. Like Fede Alvarez's Evil Dead is just like, nope, this is like the most terrifying thing you're gonna see. So
nope, I can't do it. If Chris says that, I'm so out. It's not even funny.
Yeah. So
you couldn't pay
me to watch that. So yeah. I'll stop recommending movies. That's enough movies for you to go chase down the rabbit hole.
Gonna be honest with you, I haven't written down any of these ones because they all sound terrifying. Except for The Thing, which Chris has already forced me to watch, and you guessed it, terrified me.
Yeah, man.
That movie's gnarly.
I'm excited to watch that one as we get farther along. But yeah, that's good. I think it's good. I am really glad that I'm glad both of y'all now, Luke and Ben, have seen this, because I think y'all's experience is probably one of the most common in that everybody probably feels like they've seen this movie. But it's truly a good movie and worth seeing if you haven't seen it. And it's not so scary that it's like Evil Dead. It's not funny and dumb. It holds its own enough to be scary, but not like ridiculous. And so it has this palatable like introduction to sci-fi horror. So it's good. It's worth its own. You don't have to love the series. You just watch this old 70s movie that I still think is 30 years ago because my millennial brain, whenever I think of the 70s, is like, oh, it was 30 years ago.
Yeah, that was 30 years ago. When,
50
in the 2000s,
years ago.
where it is perpetually. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We're old.
We're almost 50 years. This movie's almost 50 years old.
It is. It's like
Yeah,
45.
I know. I know.
Because a lot
That's
of those
crazy.
70s movies are now turning 50. Like Jaws will be, was Jaws not 74 or 75? I think Jaws was 75. So like that's going to be 50 next
49.
year. Like
Wow.
The Godfather just had its 50th. Like it's
It's crazy.
A New
Yeah,
Hope
what a-
will
we're
be
almost
50
50.
in 3 years.
Oh, that's gross. But
Yeah.
I think Casper the Friendly Ghost is about to hit 30. You know, all these
Crazy.
earmarks
Wow.
of classic cinema.
Yeah.
that's okay. We're still in our 20s though, so we're good. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I love that y'all watched and were forced to watch this. So
Yeah.
Chris, you have any final thoughts?
No.
you.
I just say thanks to the both of you and tune in for an episode that we've already recorded. Walk Hard will be up next.
That is true. That is very true. Well
Walk
done.
hard. Hard.
I wanna watch Walk Hard again.
Yeah, that's what you can watch right now.
That's a good
Yeah.
palette. I made after we watched Alien. I told Shannon, she was like, "All right, let's go to bed," and I was like, "No, it's too spooky." I said,
need
"After that, no way." So we watched What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, there you
Still
go.
new season, very funny.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say like
FX.
we watch like an episode of Seinfeld or something. It's
Yeah.
just completely.
Yeah.
My wife and I will do that. If something's too intense, it's just like watch
Yeah.
an old sitcom, like, and it'll just
Just watch some Seinfeld or How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Classic.
Fun.
Lovely,
Thanks, gentlemen.
lovely. Yep. Yeah.
A blast.
Thanks, Professor Chris.
Anytime,
Always.
boys.
Always thank Teacher Chris. So we'll see you, all you listeners. You're welcome to come back. And again, thanks for listening.
Do 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 ah ah do do ah ah do do ah ah do do ah